Nothing is true. Everything is permitted.
When I was a teenager, I worked as a lifeguard in a water park. We had 5 water slides that started from this one tower and ended at a single pool that was line of sight. But with the layout of the park, it was a few-minute walk from the slide pool to the top of the slides again. One lifeguard sat at the top of the tower, and another would be at the pool at the bottom. So we would signal to each other if someone was messing around on the way down, or if we needed to pause the line for any reason. With the layout of the park, you could not just see the slide pool, but see the entire park from the top of the slide tower. You could even see someone as they walked the entire few-minute path from the slide pool up to the slide tower again. The last 2 hours of the day were always really slow on the slides, so I would frequently skip my breaks to sit on top and twiddle my thumbs for the remainder of my shift. Anyways, it's about 30 minutes before closing and I'm doing my thing, chilling on the top of the slides. Only 2 kids, a boy and a girl, were going down the slides and coming back up, since there was no line at this point. As I said, it was a long walk, so the boy would come up and go. Then, about 2 minutes later, the girl would come up and go. 2 minutes later, the boy again, etc. Well, the boy comes back up, and he goes down slide 2. Slide 2 is completely enclosed, very fast, under 20-second ride, and has about a 24-inch diameter. I'm bored, so I lean over the rails, watching the bottom, and never see the boy come out of the slide. A minute later, the girl comes up, and she says she wants to go down slide 2. I tell her to wait a minute, and have her wait while I watch for the boy to come out. He never does. After a solid 2 minutes from me sending him down, keep in mind it's a fully enclosed 20-second ride, I radio the guard at the bottom and ask if the boy came out. The guard says he never did. Then I scan over the entire park. There's maybe 20 people in the park at this time of day, and I don't see the boy anywhere. At this point, I'm getting confused, but I chalk it up to the boy coming down, jumping out the side of the pool and going to the nearby bathroom. After finally concluding I must be crazy, I send the girl down slide 2. Sure enough, 20 seconds later, the girl comes out of the slide and runs off, no issue. A few minutes later, the girl comes back up, goes down slide 2 again, and comes right back out 20 seconds later. So I go back to waiting for the next person to come up the slide tower, when all of a sudden, the boy comes out of the bottom of slide 2. It had been at least 10 minutes since I'd sent him down, and the girl had gone through that slide as normal 2 times in those 10 minutes. To this day, I can't figure out what happened. Like I said, slide 2 is fast, narrow, and fully enclosed. There's no way to stop yourself on the way down. Trust me, I've tried. And even if he did manage to stop himself, there is no way that girl could have passed by him at all, let alone unimpeded in the normal 20 seconds. This boy just disappeared off the face of the earth for 10 minutes and respawned in the middle of slide 2 like nothing happened. I've gone over it in my head many times, and to this day have no clue what happened to that boy for 10 minutes.
This actually only happened a few hours ago. I've yet to talk about it to my roommates, because they'll just think I'm crazy. But anyways, this is what happened. My roommates leave for work at around 7:30 a.m., and I work from home due to my job taking extra precautions for COVID, and I always finish work before them at 6:20 p.m. They get back at about 6:50 p.m., I had just finished a long day of work and decided to play a few games as stress relief, due to me almost getting fired yesterday. I'm just sitting on my bed when I hear the front door open, clear as day. Keep in mind, my room is right next to the front door. I then got up greeting what I thought was one of my roommates and leaving my room to see if his day was stressful and if he needed anything. But when I got into the living room, no one was there. His keys nor his jacket were there. I then looked outside and saw that no car was in our parking space. Obviously, like anyone would, I began to freak out thinking, is someone in my house? Where are they? I ran back to my room and grabbed my baseball bat and began to search the house. After a full sweep of the house and entering the last room, which was a closet, I thought maybe I was hearing things. So I went back to the living room, and the roommate I thought entered earlier was on the couch, chilling, like he has been there for a while. I looked outside and saw his car. I didn't hear the door open or a car pulling up once during the sweep, but what my roommate told me didn't help me at all. He got up saying something about him checking on me and seeing what he thought was me sleeping in my bed. We went to check it out and nothing. He thinks it was just a long day of work taking a toll on him, and maybe it's the same for me, but can't hurt to see if anyone has an explanation for this.
I never thought I'd find a place where I could talk about what happened to my sister and I at the beach, until I found this subreddit. This happened about 15 years ago. We were on our annual family holiday and my sister and I decided to go for a walk on the Norfolk, UK beach we were near. Our dog Bella, a bichon frisé, loved going for walks, but today she completely refused and would not budge. We just thought it was funny how stubborn she was being and just went without her. About 30 minutes into our walk, I told my sister to watch out as there was horse poo in our way. Up ahead, we could see a woman with blonde hair on a brown horse, and we both commented on her. As she got closer, she was not on a horse, nor were there any horses around. That was quite weird to us, and we were both sure she was on a horse. Something felt very odd, but we carried on walking. Another 20 minutes in, and we were suddenly surrounded by hundreds of dead crabs. It seemed odd, but we also discussed that being a beach, it wasn't that out of the ordinary to see dead crabs. Just not usually that many. We stopped for a bit, just to enjoy the sound of the sea coming in and out. I got this sudden rush of fear over me, looked to the horizon and saw what looked like a torpedo going across the sea line at a steady pace. I started to tap my sister to get her attention, to show her what I could see. She could see it too, and started to freak out. We genuinely thought the beach was about to be bombed. As the torpedo got to one end of the horizon, it turned around and started to come back. This time, as it started to come back past, it looked like it was opening up and inflating. I checked with my sister, and she too could see everything I saw. The torpedo opened up into what looked like a boat, or what a smaller Noah's Ark would look like. The boat was clearly bright green and yellow, but I felt like we should not have been able to see the colors so clearly with the boat being so far away. The weirdest part was that we could see a man on the boat, much bigger than the boat, waving slowly and smiling as he went past. We keep looking at all the people around us and no one else was looking. Once the boat got to the end of the horizon, it turned back into a torpedo, went to the other end, then disappeared. When we got back, my mum was really worried as we had gone for ages, and she said both our phones went straight to voicemail, even though they were both turned on with full battery. We were both in disbelief about what we had seen, and I've tried to research it and cannot find anything that remotely touches the subject. If anyone has any ideas, please shout them out. I was singing in the shower the other day, and I stopped for a split moment to bend down to get some shampoo. As I went to do this, I heard myself singing. My mouth never opened. I don't have schizophrenia or anything that would make a noise like that. It was the same song, my voice, but I wasn't singing. And when I went to open my mouth to ask if someone was there, the singing stopped. I also wasn't listening to any music, so it couldn't have been any other voices. I sing a cappella in the shower. I asked my roommates if they were playing music or singing in their shower on the opposite side of the wall, and they said they were all in the living room, playing a board game. The voice was clear, as if it were coming from my own mouth. The shower that I shower in has pretty harsh water pressure, so it's crazy loud. I can't think of how this could have happened, and it's been plaguing my mind a lot. I don't drink often, and I wasn't under the influence when this happened. I've never done drugs. I'm terrified and unsure as to what happened. I have no logical explanation for it. I am flawed. Nothing like this has ever happened before.
I usually arrive at work quite early in the day, often in the very early hours of the morning, 3, 4, maybe 5 a.m. My office is within a skyscraper that also houses a shopping mall and a high-end apartment block. I usually make a habit of parking near the apartment block's area to avoid getting my car scratched by shoppers once the mall opens. However, yesterday something felt wrong. Nothing was in the garage. I made my way all the way into the garage before I realized that there was nothing there. No cars. No people. No snaking system of vents and wires hanging from the ceiling. It was just me. Silence. And almost nothing else. I panicked and did a 180 to make my way out. But on my way back out, I was stopped by a security guard who asked where I was going in such a hurry. I almost told him what was going on. But then I looked around me, and everything is normal again. The parking lot went from empty to nearly packed, and everything looks normal, though some cars do appear oddly parked and slightly weird looking, but things are nevertheless normal for the rest of the day. I'm just a bit shook and confused right now. I saw something like this before, and I was able to convince myself that it's just prolonged stress. But now, it's back, and I question reality more than just a bit.
So a couple of years ago, I was out having a beer with a couple of my friends on a terrace. It was a cloudy, drizzly day, and we were all talking about our childhood days. It was a good day. I got up to go to the table with the icebox to get another beer, when suddenly everything blacked out. Next thing I saw, I was suddenly at a train station, which looked from the 1800s. I don't even know if trains existed then, but based on the architecture of the station and people's clothing, it felt around the time period. I was standing under a giant clock, trying to make of what this place was and what had just happened suddenly, when I realized I had a ticket in my hand which said first-class reservation from Brussels to Mechelen. At this point, I would like to clarify I'm from India, and back then I still hadn't traveled to Europe, so at that moment I was still very confused as to where I was and why I had that ticket in my hand. When I realized I had a ticket in my hand which said first-class reservation from Brussels to Mechelen, I felt a sense of urgency as the train was ready to leave and the clock under which I was had struck 2:15 p.m. and the departure time had already passed. But the train was still at the platform blowing its old steam horn. The engine looked brand new, but it was a steam engine like the olden days. I was completely baffled by what was happening, and at this point, I saw a man staring directly at me. He was wearing a penguin suit and wore a tall hat and had a huge mustache. His look was more of one wherein I felt he knew something. Something like I wasn't supposed to be there. Just that moment, everything snapped back and I remember lying down on my terrace with both my friends standing over me terrified. I was back at my terrace. I asked them what had happened and they told me what they saw. They said while I was walking towards the table with the icebox, I froze stiff and fell to the ground as if a statue. I was out for hardly 2 to 3 seconds. They saw me falling and came running calling out my name, and I just came back to my senses. The feeling was very weird because they said I was out for hardly 2-3 seconds, but what I remembered from my experience at the station, I was there for at least 10-15 minutes, closely watching everything and everyone around me. To this day, I believe I somehow slipped into another reality, and that man who looked at me, the face of whom I still remember very clearly, I'll never forget. That man somehow realized my slippage into another time period, and somehow sent me back. Let me know what you think about this. I would love to know your thoughts. Hello watchers and listeners, thank you so much for watching. A huge thank you to Lucid Lupus for joining me on this one. Be sure to go over and check out his channel after this if you haven't already. He has a lot of great content. A huge thank you to all the Reddit users who kindly allowed me to use their stories. And of course, a huge thank you to all of you who continue to support me. I truly do appreciate it so much. And remember,
Papa loves you.